Hello and welcome to my channel. I have a showcase of this little suitcase mini album that I just finished, and I used the Papercraft Society box number 22. That one was curated and designed by Helen Griffin, and she's all about mini albums, so I thought that it would be really fun to create a mini album using that kit. She had a lot of travel themed stamps, and so that's what made me go with this sort of luggage themed look. And I decided straight away that I wanted to do another accordion hinge album. And at this point, I think this is probably the third accordion hinge album that I've made in the last couple of months. So I'm really falling in love with this style of mini album making. And in particular with this one, what I've done is I've separated the hinge into two different pieces, and I've incorporated that hinge into the design of my album as my luggage straps. So you can see this is all not one piece, it's two pieces connected to get it to long enough, but essentially it looks like it's all one piece. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and give a quick flip through so that you can see front to back the entire album, and then I'll go back and kind of talk about some different aspects of this album. I do have a full tutorial video, so if you want to see how I made this album, I actually have all of the steps from stamping out and making my own pattern papers to creating little accents and elements to go onto my pages, and the full assembly and construction of the album, including decorating. This is one of the few tutorial videos where I actually complete the entire album in that video. So if you want to check out that video, I'll link to it in the upper right hand corner here, so feel free to hop over to that video if you want. And I'll if you watch this video to completion, I'll also add a link to that video, the tutorial video, at the end of this one too. So let me start off with a quick flip through. In hindsight, I didn't realize how bulky this would be, or else I would have made these straps a little bit longer. They just barely fit, but they still do work as a closure, which you don't really need because this album does close pretty flat and opens pretty flat as well. So let me go ahead and flip through each of the pages. It's pretty simple and not too overly embellished, because with the accordion hinge style, there's no real gusset between the pages, and so that fits perfectly my kind of style of album making, because I generally don't like to add a lot of embellishments on the insides of the pages, and so having a more flat page works great for me, and I can fit a lot of pages in here as well, so lots of photo opportunities, lots of pockets for adding keepsakes and whatnot. So that is my album front to back. So let me go back through and just talk about different aspects that you'll see in more detail if you do watch the tutorial video. So as with pretty much all of my albums, I do like to reinforce anything that's got movement with Tyvek. So you'll see I've used black Tyvek here, and I've just integrated that because it's exposed into sort of the design of my book. So that's why my front and back covers have black. There's some Tyvek reinforcement here as well to reinforce the hinges. And basically anything that moves I like to reinforce with Tyvek. Then I did use the dies that cut out the pockets, which have matching dies to cut out matte layers as well. This pocket, however, is actually the die that will create a waterfall element for your album. I didn't want to make a waterfall for this mini album because once you stack, a few layers of these waterfall flaps, it does become rather dimensional, so I just didn't want that extra dimension. So I just added a couple of of strips to the side so that I can have this be a pocket instead of a waterfall. And I did not have enough of the pattern paper and solid color cardstock in the kit to fully decorate all of my pages. So I did have to bring in some solid color card from my stash and as well stamp out some of my own pattern papers. And so again, you'll see how I made that in my tutorial video. I mostly used stamps from this kit, but I did bring in a couple of extra stamp sets out of my stash. So in particular, the little airplane here, that and the ticket here come from a Sizzix stamp and die set. I'll link to that in the description box if you're curious to know exactly which one. And I thought it matched pretty well with the pattern paper, the airplane on the pattern paper that came in the kit. And that's kind of what I was going for, because I was trying to sort of mimic the pattern papers that we got in the kit so that it still feels like it all goes together. Then this little dotty trail here I found actually I have a lot of these as it turns out. So if you have stamp sets that include butterflies or bees, you might be able to find something like this. I used a honeybee stamps set, and I picked that one in particular because it actually had 3 different little flight path patterns, which I thought was nice to have that variation. Just like how they've got different variations here. Now, the one on their pattern paper is dashed lines, whereas mine is a dotted line. But, you know, I'm not too worried about it matching 100%. So I kind of like how that turned out. And then I remembered in my unboxing video that I mentioned how it was going to be really hard for me to cut into the pattern papers because they're all so pretty, and I didn't know how you could get more of them if you wanted outside of just buying another full set, or full kit. As it turns out, if you open the inspiration book that comes in the kit, there's actually a link within there that takes you to a page where you can actually download some extras that come with the kit. And I don't know if it's true of all the kits, but for this one, we got PDF files of all of the pattern papers. So I just printed it out on my home printer. I have a Canon Pixma color inkjet printer. It is rated as a photo printer, and back in the day when I got it, it was probably close to top of line in terms of home, photo printers, but I bought it, it's probably over 10 years old at this point, and so it's probably far from top of the line, but I do think it still did a really good job of printing out these full color prints. And in particular, I almost like my home printed ones better. You can see it a little bit more clearly. Let me see if I can get both. This is the paper that came in the kit. It's a little bit darker than what my printer printed, and some things are easier to see on my home printed one, like the stamps here, the passport stamps. It's the contrast between the color there and the background fill color is a lot it's a lot better, where this is lighter than what is on the original pattern paper. So I kind of like that. You may prefer that fades a little bit more in the background. That's just a matter of preference, but I kind of like being able to clearly see that and clearly be able to read it. So I thought it's actually really nice how it turned out home printing it. And I did print it on my better copy paper. So I have my run-of-the-mill everyday copy paper, which is just 20-pound text weight. But these, when I print full color like this, I like to print onto my color digital copy paper, which is smoother. It's a brighter white, and it's slightly heavier weight, so 24-pound text weight as opposed to 20-pound. So ultimately, all of those things combined make for a better kind of full bleed printing. So that turned out pretty well. Now there are some things that don't come across as well as on the original. So there's this really large butterfly that is darker than sort of the main color here, and you can see it. It's subtle, but you can definitely see it more clearly on the papers that were included in the kit versus what mine was able to produce just printing it out at home. But again, that's just kind of the trade-off, right? So it's nice to be able to print off as many of these sheets as I needed to complete my album. And I did we got in the kit 6 A5 size sheets of this sort of craft color, almost lightweight chipboard. So this is a pretty sturdy. On one side, it's this really nice smooth craft color, but on the other side was a more chipboardy color. So I left a pretty thin border. You might be able to see some of it, but I did distress all of the edges just so that, it wasn't quite as noticeable. But you can see here the difference between the two a little bit. So I used one of the 6 sheets, cut that in half, and that became my front and back cover, and then the remaining 5 sheets have become my page basis. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then I made some paper brads. So if you want to see how to make those, you can check out the tutorial video for that. And I did have to pull in some dies outside of this kit in order to create the paper brad. But what's visible here, this little rose with the embossed pattern, the leaf, and then this was like a little mini tag. What's visible, all of those are die cut from dies that come in this kit. What you don't see is sort of the mechanism or structure for the paper brad, and so those were die cut from dies from the Tonic Studios Delightful Dresser kit and a Medodo die set that I have. But what it comes down to is really just 3 different size circles. So if you can find 3 different size circles, once you see the mechanic and the structure of how to put one of these together, you may be able to recreate this from dies that you have in your stash. And then the other thing, these tags, there's a die that will cut out these tags, and you get 2 sheets of pre-printed tags, and the die is really easy to line up and cut those out. So it's nice and borderless, edge to edge, and I just die cut it a second time out of solid color card just to make this a little bit sturdier. And what else is there? Oh, so I did also create these kind of photo mats. The tab here is another die that comes in the kit, so that is out of the kit, and these photo mats will fit a 3x4 photo. So this little kind of placeholder is sized at 3x4. So I have a couple sets of those in this album as well. And I think that's pretty much it in terms of, the different aspects of this album. The last thing I guess is I didn't really do much with this hinge. So if you saw my previous accordion hinge album, I'll link to it in the upper right hand corner here if you're curious to check that out. But I talk about different ways that you can kind of anchor this this hinge and different ways to kind of treat it, whether you want to hide it or expose it. And so with this album, though, I just left it. So you can still actually slide this out, and you can actually remove the entire page signature if you want, and reorder all of the pages. But I didn't want to get too fancy with this album, and I knew as it was, I didn't have enough pattern papers to cover, the 5 page bases that I have already. So I didn't want to create any more kind of flips and flaps and whatnot. So I've just left it. and I think it's a perfectly good option to do. And I was intentional with the black because I'm using kind of black in other places. I knew I had to use my black Tyvek because I don't have anything craft color. So I just integrated that into the design of the album. And to Tyvek reinforce my page bases, because this is one piece of A5 card that's folded, and you have to cut these slits. And so I did, if you can see the black strip here, that's Tyvek. And even though it's black, you almost don't really see it because it's dark, it kind of fades into the background, and with all of the brighter colors and the pattern papers on the album pages themselves, you hardly kind of notice that it's a piece of black Tyvek instead of something that blends in a little bit more with the page base. Normally, if I make an album where I reinforce it, I like to use Tyvek that is the same color as my page base so that you don't really see it. But I figure, even if you do pick it up, it's still integrated. The black is still integrated in other places, so it looks almost intentional. But I think with all that's going on the page, you hardly notice it anyhow. And on the spine, this here is Tyvek, but it's white Tyvek that I've just used my alcohol marker to color. And because you see so little of it, it actually kind of blends in pretty well with the album pages, at least on the craft side. So I guess technically I could have done that here as well, but I thought the black accents would look better. So that's what I went with. So that is my mini album complete. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And if you want to catch new videos as I publish them, then hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Thank you so much, and until my next video, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!